everybody, thank you for watching Sneha Taori, and this episode is, I think, one of the most meaningless conversations of the year, because this time we are going to have a normal chit chat, but in a sense wherein you'll actually get to know more about how to essentially build a startup. So basically, I have somebody. अनमोल इज़ अ वेरी गुड फ्रेंड ऑफ माइन, पर ये जानने से ज़्यादा इम्पॉर्टेंट ये जानना है कि अनमोल हैज़ बीन द गाइडिंग फोर्स फॉर अ लॉट ऑफ स्टार्टअप्स अक्रॉस द कंट्री. When I say this, it actually means that Anmol has been a part of a lot of big scaled events wherein startups, they come, they pitch, and Anmol is somebody who actually judges the startups, and then he makes out कि अच्छा आपके startup में ये थोड़ा सा void है and you have to actually fill this void up. So this is what his job is completely. So now that we are going into the entrepreneurship segment in terms of the entrepreneurship podcast that we have been doing from past a couple of episodes. So this episode is entirely for them who are a typical Gen Z crowd and who really want to understand in a friendly tone about how to build a startup from the very scratch. So let's get started, and today we have Anmol with us, and finally we both have been able to share the same couch, the same vibrant couch, and I think this was one of his dreams also. I think it was in your bucket list.
I was waiting since a long while now.
See, so famous this podcast is. Anyways, so Anmol, how are you?
I'm great.
How are you doing? How is life treating you?
How is life treating me? It's treating me really well. The proof is that I'm here.
Whoa! Wonderful man. मैंने इसको पैसे नहीं दिए थे मार्केट करने के लिए, so do not worry guys. So tell us something about you, your journey. What do you do?
Okay, so professionally my journey started after graduation joining Persistent Systems. I'm a Salesforce developer at Persistent Systems, and before that, since my college years, I was a very active community member in GDC Nagpur and other communities. Wonderful. So that's where the experience started. And right now I go around into different hackathons, meet a ton of hackers, and some of them actually end up creating startups out of their hacks.
Right.
So that's how the startup culture vibes and guidance mentorship started.
Right.
A founder from, I guess, Aurangabad also was working together for a pretty long time. Eventually he drifted. He got to know that there are some hurdles there. So he went back to scratch and doing community events more and getting in close with developers first before building it back. So that's why a lot of different ways. You never know where startup takes you. So that's the interesting part.
Right. So now that we are going to talk about startups, so tell me something about startups from your perspective, or how do you see startups as?
Okay, startups, first of all, it's a little bit overhyped term as well in today's age, because if you can just make money, you are a startup. Yeah. And essentially, it is the same definition. However, it's important to think about sustainability, profitability, and what is the scalability, how long you can do that, when you need to pivot or to a different direction or maybe a different startup. These are the questions that people often right now struggle with, and they take to it their pride that I cannot leave this and try to continue what's not gonna work. Right. They spend some time there, so those are good and bad parts about startups. But yeah, it's a great journey if you really have a good idea and you are really onto it. Go ahead with it. There's nothing stopping you.
So now that how you ended up the statement that there's nothing stopping you, but what do you think could be the probable reasons of why startups are failing these days?
It's hard in today's age. Earlier it was very difficult to create startups because of the access issues. Information was not available, mentoring was not available, or resources were not available, people were not available, mentors were not available. Right now all of these things are kind of sorted. Right. Some or the other way you can actually have somebody with you. Perhaps एक बहुत अच्छा boon होगा अगर if you have them in person in your family. But if you don't have, doesn't mean that you can't do it. Right. So that's the biggest distinguishing factor now. But at the same time, the only thing that stops people really, even after making a startup from scaling it, is they themselves. Right. The self-doubt, the anxieties, the worries about what ifs. Those are the things that stop more than the actual problems now.
Right. So now that we have been doing business podcasts, or let's say entrepreneurship podcasts, or maybe we have done a couple of podcasts wherein we were actually talking about how businesses were in earlier times and how they have evolved. The typology of the business have evolved with respect to the time. So here I wanted to ask that because of the experience that you catch hold of, that we probably have by going into different events from across the country. You get to meet a lot of people. How do you think that it is very essential for a startup founder to understand what kind of consumer base he or she should have?
आई थिंक इसका सिंपल सा एग्जांपल होगा ये पॉडकास्ट अपने आप में.
Okay.
पॉडकास्ट और जैसे जो इंटरेक्शंस होते थे पहले, these used to happen only on TVs.
Right.
Right now we are gonna reach million people perhaps
Right.
via a simple app on a phone.
Right.
So you see the evolution has been a very long way. Earlier it was print media that was the main start hold of advertisement, but right now it's social media.
Right.
So the media has evolved as well. And earlier, if you want to build a business, the first image comes up is an office,
Right.
table chair, and clients and a whole team with you. Right now, people can actually imagine a single room with a single setup and nothing else in the room,
Right.
and just a mattress to sleep on, not even the bed, and still it can be a $2 million startup.
Correct.
So these things have changed thanks to the advancements in technology and advancements in what is accessible to us. Today we have ChatGPT. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We do take a lot of help from that thing. Just be a little cautious and wise while using it.
Right, right. So now that we have been talking about tools, what do you think are the key essential tools to build a startup? Or probably, for example, let's say if today I'm starting a startup and I won't go and I won't register my company right now on the very day one, but then probably after a couple of months I would be having a lot of finances or probably a lot of investments that I might have made in terms of building my startup. Let's say for example मैंने prototype बनाने में invest किया, मैंने website बनाने में invest किया, so whatever. So for example ये पूरा accounting को manage करने के लिए we have Excel as a tool. So what all sorts of tool would you prefer or would you recommend to the budding startup founders?
The answer might sound a little bit stupid, but the biggest, only essential tool I see is you already have. It's your brain.
Oh, wonderful.
Because
Nice.
all these tools, Excel, ChatGPT, all of them are useless unless you can apply your brains on how are you gonna use it. Like there are people who have MacBooks,
Right.
but they can't code.
Right.
And there are people who have i3 or earlier processors, but they can't build the software they want to code. So
Right.
those kind of things, it's just at the end it's a tool.
Yeah.
It is to be used by the person. और अगर आपको Excel भी आता है, but आपको ये नहीं पता कि फाइनेंस मैनेज कैसे होते हैं, तो Excel के फॉर्मूला लगाने के लिए आप कहाँ लगाओगे?
Correct. Correct.
So
correct.
और ऐसा भी नहीं है कि ये tools के बिना काम नहीं होता. Tools are just a convenience. They buy you some time. That's why you buy the tool.
Right. Right.
So you see the trade-off there.
Yeah.
And the only thing happens is जो काम आप हाथ से करोगे, आप पूरी एक्सेल नोटबुक में बना सकते हो. देयर वाज पंजी वगैरह कॉन्सेप्ट्स
Yeah.
होते थे हमारे पास पहले से भी. आज से हम टूल्स यूज करते हैं बिकॉज़ दैट्स कन्वीनियंट,
Right.
दैट्स मोर एफिशिएंट. तो देयर इज हार्डली एनी टूल. इफ यू रियली नीड वन टूल, either you will find it or either you will make it. So don't worry about tools.
Wonderful. I like this. Either you'll find it or you'll make it. Okay. So now that we have ended upon this on the statement that either you'll find a tool or probably you'll make a tool, what do you think whenever, for example, if today I have to build a startup, what kind of mindset do you feel that one should have while building a startup? Or is it just very random कि ठीक है आज से मैं thought है and then I'll just create my own startup?
I would certainly say that thought let's make a startup will not be a very good startup.
Yeah.
However, the biggest thing about business and startups, actually business in general, is that no matter how you start, no matter what you take up, no matter what your mindset is, the more you keep going, it will humble you. Because you will realize that no matter how great you are, how intellectual you are, you will always find your own limits, and
Right.
then you will have to push from there.
Right.
And finding that limit for prodigies is more daunting because they have never seen that before.
Right. Right.
So they struggle a lot on that point to actually go beyond that limit because they have never had to push themselves before.
Right. Right.
Apart from that, what was the question again? Sorry.
What do you think should be the mindset of a startup founder?
Yes. So basically, the whole mindset should always be from a disciple perspective, on the pure learning attitude, because every day is your day one as it goes in Amazon,
Right.
and no matter, you will never know what is coming up, but you should always be ready to learn something new if you need to. And if you are doing it, maybe sooner or later you'll definitely survive.
How do you find those detailed learnings or probably the minute learnings of your life in your daily life?
Now that's a very exciting question and something that most people will be wondering to know.
Yeah.
How do you reach the details which
Yes.
others don't? And the answer to this is like it's coincident that just this morning I was having a conversation with my mom, and you know moms, right? They might not care about your cables much.
Yeah.
And being
Yeah.
a IT person, you care about those cables a lot.
Yeah. That's
So
true.
I just out of nowhere said that प्लीज उसको अच्छे से लगाओ, समझो कहाँ पे वो दुखी है, कहाँ पे खुश है, वो बता रहा है, स्ट्रेस समझ में आता है. तो शी इज अ टेलर बाय द वे, एंड शी सेड, Anmol, I'm so surprised. You said a very wonderful sentence there. The reason she said was that even in tailoring and cloth stitching, the cloth can speak to you if you are able to understand how the cloth is behaving. So every trade has its thing that the things you are working with are not things, they're kind of alive. Once you start hearing them, that's where you will start to see the details.
That was deep.
Anmoldeep.
That was deep. From here I wanted to know that if at all हर इंसान के पास में इतना दिमाग नहीं होता है, probably I think I must say प्रेजेंस ऑफ माइंड या कॉन्शियस माइंड इतना प्रिपेयर नहीं होता कि वो छोटी छोटी चीज़ों में से या छोटे छोटे इंस्टेंसेस में से ये सारे लर्निंग्स निकाल पाए. बट देन एट द एंड ऑफ द डे जब हम एक स्टार्टअप को बिल्ड करना शुरू करते हैं, no doubt it's not going to be easy. It is very well said that for any startup to get established in a well stable way, it takes 1,000 days, which means 3
Correct.
years.
Absolutely.
So what perspective do you have कि ये 3 साल ही क्यों लगते हैं, 2 साल या 4 साल क्यों नहीं लगता है?
इसका एक सिंपल सा आंसर देते हैं. Like there is a reason we have some kind of adulthood ages predefined. There is a reason we all go through 10 years of education before choosing our own stream.
Right.
And similarly, when you said not everybody has that conscious level, but this duration is bound and proved that in this duration everybody finds their conscious level.
Fair enough.
Similarly, for a startup, even though you are a prodigy, you might struggle on your own limits. And if you are not a prodigy, and if you are really very trivial on intellectual level, it will take you time to actually boost your intellectual and awareness and conscious levels.
Understood.
And both of them are somehow related to 3 years of duration into one thing. So, or also one thing that you said, not everybody has that presence of mind. I would say that's kind of excuse that we make today.
Yeah.
Because we all are bound to have equal level of consciousness as Swami Vivekanand and other great leaders that we had. And even they themselves said this so many times to practice this and that and actually unlock your complete potential. However, we are a little occupied with the reels nowadays.
Yeah. Understood. So now from here I want to know that I have been actually stalking your profile from so long.
Okay.
One of the reasons was because I like to see people who keep on traveling a lot, because when you travel you meet new people and you
Absolutely.
have different experiences and they all are very much unexpected. मतलब तुमने कभी सोचा भी नहीं होगा तुमको ऐसा experience मिल जाएगा. Now that you have been to different parts of the country, different hackathons of the country, when you are supposed to surround yourself, or when intentionally or unintentionally you surround yourself with a lot of people, how does it affect you as a person, or how does it help you evolve as a person?
So that's actually a very interesting question. However, I would like to fix a little detail there. It's not even necessary to go around places. Like even by being in your own city, we live in Nagpur, right?
Yeah.
It's 3 lakh people,
Yeah.
and I haven't yet met all of them. So there is still so much potential to reach out. And at the same time, as you said that when you go out, that's actually stepping out of your comfort zone, because if it is Nagpur, it's my home city.
Right.
If it is some other city, then it's absolutely new territory for me.
Right.
So I'm very cautious not to disturb the existing ecosystem and all. But when you actually meet these people, also prior experience helps a lot, because I had made connections here first, so the communication skills and social skills were far better.
Right.
So that helps you connect with new people the next time you meet them. And when you meet them there, again, I meet people in events, hackathons, sometimes community dinners. So they are there to actually have a conversation. They are waiting for such a good experience to happen.
Right.
And the best gift you can give it to them is to create that experience.
Right.
So that's how it all works. You just bring something on the table that excites them, and at the same time makes them share something that excites you.
Okay.
So that's the art.
Now that you have been to hackathons में what do you actually do?
I usually go as a mentor, often as a judge. Mentoring and judge roles are far different because as a mentor, we are there to make sure the teams win,
Right.
and as a judge, we are there to find who is the winner.
Okay.
So as a mentor, it's more of a responsibility because you have to help every team reach the final prototype demo and present them in the best way. However, a judge, you have to be silent and just observe and do not give any feedback so that they can adapt on spot.
Fair enough. So now that you go to such hackathons, बहुत बार ऐसा होता होगा ना अनमोल कि यार आज इस बंदे ने ये वाला हैकाथॉन में पार्टिसिपेट किया, उसने ये प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट का ये सोल्यूशन निकाला, बट देन ये सोल्यूशन निकालने के बाद में तुमको ऐसा लगता होगा यार यही तो वो लूप होल है, यही तो वो वॉइड है जिसकी वजह से तुम आगे नहीं बढ़ पा रहे हो. तो व्हाट डू यू थिंक इन टर्म्स ऑफ पीपल व्हाइल बिल्डिंग स्टार्टअप्स इज द मोस्ट एसेंशियल वॉइड दैट पीपल स्टिल बिलीव कि हाँ ठीक है ना छोड़ ही देते हैं.
इसका एक सिंपल सा आंसर देता हूँ. आई हैव मेट पीपल who are very trivial in their approaches but have that learning attitude and are ready to take feedback. And when you tell them that this is something that is gonna take you down, they actually think about it, ponder, and by the next time in the next mentoring round when you come, they've actually pivoted to a whole new direction.
Whoa.
And at the same time, since it is a very big shift, it often backfires as well.
Right.
So I have seen a few, I think in the last hackathon that I visited, there were two teams. One of them took my advice and pivoted on the first mentoring round, and by the second and third and judgment, they were on a far different level on the same idea. They eventually won. And the guy hanged on stage when he was asked to share experience that Anmoldeep sir told us to pivot in the right time and we were able to pull it off.
Nice.
And after the hackathon, I asked them, did I really said that? Because I mentored so many, I kind of forgot.
Right.
And they said, yes, you were the one who came in the first round, so we got enough time to pivot around and go forward.
Wonderful, man. Wonderful.
And at the same time, there was this one other team in the very same hackathon. They pivoted on that. I gave them an idea that they need to have a little pivot to be done there. However, maybe some other mentor came in and advised them a complete pivot shift,
right.
And they eventually lost the very fundamental thing that was the star icon of their hack. Lost.
Shit.
So this is what happens. This is where the hackathon ka fun comes up.
Correct.
Because the team has to put their brains on thinking whose advice to take and how much to take it.
Right.
Because I cannot or every mentor cannot say that this is the right advice.
Right.
You have to put some brains there, right? And that's why I said the only tool you really need is your brain.
Correct. So I think the thumbnail of the podcast should be like the only tool you need to
build up the startup
build
is
up a startup is your brain. Fair enough. So anything that you would like to share to the younger generation right here?
I'm kind of thoughtful that what should I share, because I recently met somebody who is running a platform out of just HTML, CSS and a simple Python server. He's creating a platform for a developers training on codes and competitive programming, and he has been pulling that off just with those simple learnings from what we get in engineering colleges.
Right.
Not anything super modern or something. Absolute basics. And in fact, for feedback on different touch points, he is collecting feedback via Google Forms on the same pages. And he's running that for like 29-30 rupees per user, I guess.
Oh my god.
And he's still making decent money to get the expense of the server out of it.
Perfect.
So this is Gen Z that I see.
Yeah.
And
Dugadu.
And after watching these people, I'm thoughtful. Do I really need an advice there? And if you need one, you can contact.
It makes sense. So yeah, I just have a small rapid fire.
Yes.
Otherwise, your conversation बहुत अजीब रह जाएगा.
This is gonna be interesting now.
Yeah. Okay. So imagine yourself. I know that you are not a startup founder, but you have been the guiding force behind a lot of startups.
Yes.
So imagine yourself as if you are one of the startup founders. Okay. And here we go. One word that would describe your startup journey.
Blissful.
Fair. The biggest myth about startups that you would like to bust.
सब हो जाएगा.
Fair. A startup fail you believe is so much overrated.
Startup?
a startup belief or a startup quote or a startup phrase you believe is very much overrated?
This is something that is said to be taken by from Ratan Tata. However, Ratan Tata himself denies on it.
Okay.
That I don't worry about the actions. I take actions and fix them later, which is not really a good way to proceed.
Fair. One resource that every founder should leverage, but is often overlooked.
The silent one in the room, who is always the most useful one.
Okay, in terms of the team.
Yes.
Fair. If you have had to swap roles with a founder for a day, what would it be?
I'll take the marketing role just for a day because I cannot do it forever. But
Okay.
I'm gonna enjoy the social life of it.
Okay. The app or tool that you cannot live without?
iPhone reminders.
I thought it would be brain.
I need to offload my brain on reminders app.
Okay. What's your go-to method for a creativity boost?
Nature.
The one trait that every founder should possess.
Curiosity.
I like your one words. The most unexpected lesson learned from a failure.
Society.
The first thing you will do when your startup hits its next big milestone.
Go with Diljit.
Okay, one favorite song of yours by Diljit.
Born to shine.
And the last but the most important question of the entire conversation, one word about the Sneha Taori.
Amazing podcaster.
Yeah, thanks. So, guys, everybody who's watching this video right now, let me tell you that we are going to come up with such interesting conversations. I understand कि आपके पास में बहुत सारा ज्ञान है already, बहुत अलग अलग platforms पे, पर कुछ conversations ना आपको indirectly बहुत सारी छोटी छोटी चीज़ें सिखा जाती है जो probably आपको theoretical knowledge कभी नहीं सिखा पाता. तो अनमोल के साथ में ये कॉन्वर्जेशन अनइंटेंशनली प्लान किया हुआ एक कॉन्वर्जेशन था. इट वॉज नॉट स्क्रिप्टेड एट ऑल एक्सेप्ट फॉर द रैपिड फायर क्वेश्चन दैट आई हैव मेड आउट फ्रॉम ChatGPT. बट at the end of the day, I just want to tell you that go take your mentorship from somebody like Anmoldeep is, because he as a person is so good. He as a person has been to different places, having different experiences, meeting different people from different backgrounds. Having said that, he also understands how एक इंसान का माइंडसेट रन करता है और हेल्प करता है और एक्चुअली इज़ वन ऑफ द मोस्ट, आई मीन हाउ अ ब्रेन it becomes one of the most impactful factors for actually building a startup from scratch. So as he said that either you make a tool or you create it. Either you find a tool or you create it, something of that sort. So I still have to go and watch this podcast again and again and again to still digest the minute detailings of how to build a startup. But yes, this was it with Anmoldeep Singh Arora. Make sure that you go and check his profile out. The link is mentioned in the description box below. And do not forget to like, share, comment and subscribe the YouTube channel, which is made for Gen Z entrepreneurs. Thank you so much.